So here we are in chapter 7 talking about comparing paraphrasing and reflection of feeling. And so when we think about paraphrasing, we're really focusing on the content of what the client says, and we are clarifying that content. So if my client is talking about their child and the learning disability that has been diagnosed and worried about information, I could paraphrase by saying, what I hear you saying is your child has been diagnosed with a learning disability and you don't feel like you have enough information. Is that about right? Reflection of feeling focuses on the underlying emotion, and it helps clients to make their emotional life clearer. It helps us to really clarify what emotion is the client saying or communicating to us. So for example, a reflection of feeling might be, Sue, sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed right now. Tell me more about that. Next slide. So when we think about the idea of reflection of feeling, the first thing we want to do is identify what are the key emotional words that my client is using. So they talk about emotional tones often like confused or lost, or they might give us a single clear emotion like sad, mad, happy, or fearful. And so as we listen and as we reflect, we can recognize what are the complex emotions and what are those underlying emotions that are really there. It's one thing we want to always remember is that a client responds first from their safest emotion. So most guys, for example, their safest emotion is anger. And so if they're sad, it may come out as mad. Or if they're afraid, it might come out as mad. Women, sometimes our safest emotion can be sadness. And so if we're angry, we might cry. If we're happy, we might cry. And so that safe emotion, whatever it is always going to be what comes out first. And that's important for us to know as clinicians. Next slide. So there are 4 basic feelings: sad, mad, glad, and scared. And these 4 emotions, plus surprise and disgusted, are universal. They've been found in every culture. And so as we think about those 4 emotions, think to yourself for a moment, what are words that a client might use to describe sad or mad or glad or scared? What comes to your mind? Words that you might hear your client say. Next slide. And next slide again. So sometimes clients express emotions in a way that's unclear. Just like we talked about before, they might say they're angry, but really be sad. They might say that they are afraid, but really be angry. And so again, that safest emotion is going to be what comes out first. Next slide. So some regular feeling words are anger, abandoned, abused, used, calm, cheerful, delighted. But then there are these words that are mixed feeling, like upset. So upset could mean angry and sad. Torn could mean confused. It could mean angry. It could mean fearful. It could mean sad. And so look at the surface word, but then look what's underlying that, which we would need to get from the client's facial expression and from context. Sometimes clients express feelings in a metaphor, like I feel like I'm stuck in a cage. I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. I feel like I'm a rat in a maze. Those are really gifts to us as a clinician because we can take those metaphors and really build a whole session around them. So, for example, I had a client who gave me permission to talk about her case that talked a lot about, I feel like I'm drowning and no one will throw me a life ring. And so we talked about that. Who are the people in your life that could throw you a life ring? What would a life ring look like? We even drew life rings and wrote things on them. So there are a lot of ways we can take those metaphors and use them to help our client therapeutically. Next slide. So when we reflect a feeling, we observe the feeling, then we name the feeling, and then we repeat it to the client. So we might say, Joe, I noticed that when your wife is telling about how she feels, you seem angry. Tell me more about that. So I always want to use seem, not you are angry, because I could be wrong. Noticing is a good way to talk about clients' feelings. I notice X, Y, Z. Next slide. So when we think about that technique, we think about choosing a sentence stem, pinpointing and labeling the feeling, using a brief statement of context, and using the appropriate tense. And so, Mary, I notice that you're uncomfortable right now as you're talking about the death of your mom. Tell me more about that. Okay. I could add a check-in. Is that right? Is that about accurate? Is that how it is? So those are all check-ins I can use. Next slide. So that's kind of a wrap-up of Chapter 7. I hope that you will be able to practice reflection of content and reflection of feeling, and we'll do another video soon.